Hello, everyone. For those who don't know me, I'm Kat. I'm a wife, a homeschool mom, and an avid reader. It is the beginning of December, and I thought I would share with you what books I read in November. This November was not as productive as a month as some of my previous months this year, and that's okay. I got to spend lots of time with my family along with wrapping up classes before the break and now working on getting classes ready for in January. So my time has kind of been divided a little more than normal. Plus, there have been lots of days where I've just not felt like reading. Instead, I have watched a movie or played video games, or just zoned out on my phone. Um, and there is nothing wrong with any of those things. It just means that I have less time to read. So, with only reading 6 books in November, I thought I could quickly go through and kind of highlight the books that I read along with what I thought on them. The first book I read in November was Yumi and the Nightmare Painter. I had a great time with this. This is one of Sanderson's secret book projects. This one came out during the summer, um, and I just got to read it now in November. This one was a little different for me. I really, really loved that I got to see some characters that we know from Stormlight Archive. My only kind of drawback with this one was now I feel like I cannot just put this in anyone's hands because they won't know who design is. They won't know, um, or they won't understand why Hoyd is as he is in this book. So, this one, unless you have read Stormlight Archive, I feel that you're going to miss bigger parts of this book than you would in some of Sanderson's previous books, where yes, you have some of the characters like with I just went blank on that title. Tress and the Emerald Sea. You have Hoyd as being a main character, but you don't have to understand what's gone on with him in the past to understand his curse or anything like that in Tress. But I feel that in Yumi that you might want to have that information a little more. But overall, I had a great time with it and I give it 5 stars. Another book that I read in November is actually a reread for me, and it is not going to show up very well in this light, but that is Diana Gabaldon's A Breath of Snow and Ashes. This one, I listened to the audio for this one, and truthfully, I went into it a little bit skeptical because in my previous reading of it, I missed a large portion of this book. I don't know if I just dozed off or due to having a toddler who was waking up in the night all the time that I just didn't remember events in this one. But I really had a great time this time in it. Um, and it really overlapped very well with my US history class because we were reading or we were talking about in class the events of the Revolutionary War. Um, so, great one. I really enjoyed it. I'm probably going to give it 4.5 stars because I did enjoy it better this time, but I still, even looking at it, I go, not my favorite of the series. So, 4.5 stars. A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Diana Gabaldon. Again, that is the 6th book in the Outlander series. Now, on to the book that I finished in a day. Now, a lot of this has to do with the fact that I was driving. I listened to Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis on our trip out to my parents' house. I was in the car for 12.5 hours with my 13-year-old. This book was so much fun. My daughter, even though she kind of would doze off or put her headphones on, she could come back to this one with very little explanation from me of what was going on. This one, we have the Fifth Avenue Library in New York, and our main character in 1913 is learning to be a journalist, and then her granddaughter, 80 years later, finds herself back at this library and working in the Fifth Avenue Library. And this was so much fun to read and to kind of have a little bit of a mystery in the book, but also to have it completely solved at the end of the book. The narration of this one was amazing. I highly recommend, if you want to read The Lions of Fifth Avenue by Fiona Davis, that you do so with the audiobook. It just really brings out the storyline in a very different way and makes it so much more enjoyable. There are dual narrators, so you have one for Laura and you have one for Sadie. Lots of fun for this one. I give this one 5 stars. The next book that I tackled in November, and I do say tackled because this is probably the book that I enjoyed the least in November. Some of it, I had high hopes for this one. I hear a lot of people talk very favorably about the author, and I totally understand where they are coming from. I enjoyed Mark Lawrence's writing, and I was really drawn into the story in the very beginning, but I feel that the audiobook for this book fell oops, a little short of my expectations. So the next book I had read was Red Sister by Mark Lawrence. This one I did try when we finished The Lions of Fifth Avenue to listen to this one in the car, and I just could not follow it. With just the audio alone, my mind would wander. I would miss events. And so I downloaded the ebook while I was at my parents' house. When I had the ebook, I could follow along a lot better with the audio and the ebook in front of me. I could still do other things. I could crochet some while listening to the audiobook, but I still had to have the ebook in front of me for those moments when it felt like things were happening and I had no real context for it. I did enjoy the story. I was a little bit on the fence of whether I would continue this series or not because this the writing style was great, but the story just did not hit me the same as some of the others I read in November. So I was on the fence, but then I found out that the Backlist Book Club is going to move forward and do the next series that follows this. So I'm going to try to give Gray Sister a see if it can redeem what I felt on this one. But for me, Red Sister probably would be a 3.5 star just because it felt a little flat for my taste. The next book that I read while at my parents' house, my younger sister and I actually were buddy reading this one, and that is The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. This one was amazing. I read my sister and I read the prologue um, in bed after we finished all of our Thanksgiving meal and all of that. And we both at the end of the chapter had to check the next page to make sure that, or to see what was going to happen. And then we could go to bed. And then after that, we just found that Rachel Griffin does a great job of ending the parts on a cliffhanger that makes you want to keep reading. I actually left my parents' house later than I intended because I was reading the winter part and I just had to finish before I got in the car. I did listen to the spring, summer, um, and autumn in the car, um, and enjoyed the audiobook, was able to follow along while I was driving, and was not left. I did not have any feelings of grogginess as I was listening to the narrator, which was great while I was driving. And this one, my daughter was able to listen to part of it and still enjoy the majority of what she heard, even though she missed the first half of the book. So, great story, had a great time. Rachel Griffin is an awesome writer, and I give this one 5 stars. And the last book I read in November was To Kiss a Prince by Breck Suzanne. This one was so much fun. It's nice to read an adventure book with a female protagonist who isn't a damsel in distress. She has no problem saying what she thinks, um, and even doing what she has to do to survive. Um, I had a lot of fun with this one. This was the Enchanted Fandom backlist pick. Um, and I really enjoyed that there is that female character. But it was also one that, had I had the audiobook, or if there was an audiobook, I'm not sure if there is or not, but I would have had no problem listening to this in my car. Many of the romance novels that I've read lately cannot be listened to due to the spice level with other ears in the car. This one was not super spicy. There was some kissing, um, and that's about it as far as the spice goes. So it was a nice change from some of the other stuff that I've been reading and look forward to reading in December. And there you have it, the 6 books I read during November. How was your November reading month? I hope that yours was as fantastic as mine was, even though I didn't have as many reads. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.